Good morning, students. Today we are doing lesson 6.4, Graphs and Intercepts of Linear Equations. Okay, let's jump right in. We did a little bit of this in the last lesson, but we're going to be graphing equations. So we're going to have examples now. So example 1 is, here's your equation. Now, sometimes you get these examples look funny, just like I showed you before, the things looking funny, but eventually it will be very different looking. But for today, you're probably going to see them on in your homework as looking like this. It's going to have a bracket like this, and it's going to show like X, Y, and then a line, and then Y equals X plus 5 in another bracket. Okay, that's the way you're going to see it today. It's just trying to show you that X and Y are what you're graphing, but really all you want to look at is this part, okay? So let's go ahead and do the graphing. So the graphing of this is the same as what we did a little while ago, is where we did a T-chart. We're going to have X and Y. And this time, instead of it telling you what points to do, you're going to pick the points. So I'm going to pick X as, we're going to do super easy ones and just do, well, let's do the same ones that the book does. So they do 0, 1, 2, and -1. So we're going to do 0, 1, 2, and -1. Sometimes I just do 1, 2, 3. Okay, it depends on what this looks like. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit in just a minute. Okay, so if X is 0, then what are we going to do? We're trying to find Y, right? So Y equals X plus 5. So that would be Y would equal 0 plus 5. So Y is 5. Okay, I'm just going to put it all in here this way. Actually, let's do this a little bit different so that it's easier to see. Let's do it like this. Okay, so 0 plus 5 is 5. I'm doing it backwards so that you can see this ordered pair right here. Okay, if X is 1, then we would have 1 plus 5. So that would be 6. If X is 2, then we would have 2 plus 5. So that's 7. And if X is -1, then that means I have -1 plus 5, which is 4. Make sure that if you have any hard ones on here that you use your calculator if you're not really good with the negative numbers. Okay, so now we're going to graph this. So these are all points, just like I put up here. Okay, we have 0, 5, 1, 6, 2, 7, and -1, 4. So when I make my graph, I need to make sure that my X goes to all these points, right? So that's this way. So all I have is -1 to 2. So that's pretty easy there. And then my Y has to go all the way up to 7. Actually, so let me move my line here. Since I know I have to go all the way up to 7, I'm going to make this graph a little bit taller. Okay, and then I don't have any negative Y's, so I don't really need that. Let me make sure I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I did. Okay, I got enough on there. 1, 2, 3, 4 for X, and I even have a -1 on X. Okay, so did everybody see how I did that? I used these numbers right here. Let me change this color. I used these numbers to make sure that my X's were all the same. I mean, that they would go all the way to 0, 1, 2, and -1. And then the same thing on the Y's. I had to get I needed 5, 6, 7, and 4. So see how I got 5, 6, 7, and 4 all on here? Okay, so that's how I decided how big my graph was going to be. Okay, now I'm going to graph these points. Okay, and I'm changing my color here. So I have 0, 5. Remember, the trick to graphing these when they have zeros on them is the number, not the 0, but the other number that's not 0 is 5 is in the Y section. So we're going to put it on the Y axis. Remember, this is the Y axis and the X axis. So now I know where my point goes. Okay, then I have 1, 6. I have 2, 7. And I have negative 1, 4. Now, when we did this with relations and functions, that was the end of it, right? But this actually, I could have some more points if I wanted to. So if I wanted to figure out what negative 2 was here, negative 2 plus 5, I would have 3. So I could go to negative 2, 3, right? And I could keep making points. I could make as many as, I could make an infinite number of points. So what I need to do is draw a line. So I'm going to draw a line right through all these points. Now I should be using a ruler, but I can't do that on my iPad. It's too hard. So here's my line, and you should use a ruler. It should not look as wavy as this. And see how this one didn't really go through the point? That was because I did not have a ruler. Okay, so that's my line. And this tells me that every single point on this line, so this one, even the half points, this would be negative 2.5 and 2.5 point, right? So it's telling me all those points are part of this line. So that's how you graph it. So I'm done with example 1. We're going to come back to example 1 to show you something else later. But all you do is make your T-chart. So here, let's write this down. Steps, make T-chart with at least 3 points. We'll talk about that in just a minute too. Number 2, plot the points on graph. Number 3, draw a line. Oh, and then the last thing that we need to do is label the line. So sometimes we'll put like 10 different lines on a graph because it's just easier than making a whole bunch of different graphs. And so I need to know which lines are which graphs. So the way that you label a line is just on top of it, you write y equals x plus 5. So all I did was take this equation and write it on the line. That's labeling the line. Okay. And there's other ways to label lines too, I'll show you later. But that's, I mean, for homework and stuff. But this is the way you really label lines. Okay, so real quick, where I put make T-chart with at least 3 points, let me show you why. Okay, let's say, I'm going to erase this in just a minute. So you do not have to draw this, just pay attention, right? Okay, let's say I picked 2 points. Okay, there's my 2 points, and I could draw a line, right? No matter what, any 2 points, it's easy to draw a line. That one actually ended up with 3, but okay. Let's say one of those points were wrong on your T-chart. Well, if I did another graph and I actually did 3 points, so I go 1, 2, 3, see how those make a line? Okay, then I know I'm probably right. I could be wrong because I could be doing something wrong, but I'm probably right because 3 points are all in a line. But let's say I did these 3 points and that's what showed up on my T-chart. Then I would know, hey, wait a minute, this does not make a straight line, right? Oops, that does not, I can't do this. That's not a straight line. So I know that something's wrong and I need to redo my points. So that's why we do 3 points, is because it will tell you if you get them wrong. If you do just 2 points, you can always make a line with 2 points. Always. I can't ever make these where I can't get a line going. Okay? So that's why we always do 3 points, because it will show you if you did something wrong. Okay, let's go ahead and do example 2. We only have 3 examples today. Okay, this one is graph now this one, see, they write it differently. They put graph x plus 3y equals 4. So this time, it doesn't have all that extra stuff on it like this one did, where it had the x, y, and lines and all that stuff. So this is more like what you see when you're spinning. Okay, so we're going to have a t-chart right here. Okay, but before I do the t-chart, there's 2 ways to do this. And I don't mind doing it either way, but I'm going to probably show you the easier way. But in the book, it says to take this and solve for y. So I'm going to do that real quick. So if I was solving this for y, I would minus x. So that would give me 3y equals negative x plus 4. And then I would divide by 3 and divide everything by 3, which would mean y equals negative x divided by 3 plus 4/3. Okay, now this makes it so that all I have to do is pick an x and put it in here and solve the problem, and it will give me y. So I can do like I did in the last one, where let's say I pick an x, 0, and then I can solve for y, right? Okay, you can do it that way, and that's fine. That's how a lot of teachers teach it. But I also like to show you that you don't have to actually do that. I can take this equation and still pick x's and y's. It might just be a little bit more thinking to do, but I know a lot of y'all can do this type of thinking. Just knowing what y'all have done so far in algebra, I know that y'all have some algebraic thinking in your head already. So let me show you how to do this without having to change this around and then getting something like this with all these fractions. So if I take this, the first equation, and I pick an x, so let's say I pick 0. I say 0 plus 3 times y equals 4. So then I just kind of solve this for y. But when I do that, I see that I'm going to get a fraction, and I don't like fractions on my t-charts. They're too hard to graph. So I'm not going to pick 0. I'm going to pick a different number. So on this one, I'm going to start with y, and I'm going to pick my y first. So what if y was 1? So I'm kind of going backwards here, but just stay with me, okay? So if y was 1, then I have 3 times 1, which is 3, right? I'm doing this in my head. So what will x have to be to get this to equal 4? X would have to be 1, right? 1 plus 3 equals 4. So x is 1. Okay, let's do another one. Remember, we need three numbers. So let's pick another one for y. I'm picking y because it's times 3, and it makes it easier if you pick the one that's times something. So if I had y was 2, right, then I have 3 times 2, which is 6. So x plus 6 equals 4. What does x have to be to make this 4? It's not going to be 4, right? It has to be something plus 6 that equals 4. Okay, first I'm going to put my y. Remember, it was 2. I'm going to put it up here so that I don't accidentally put 6. Remember, y was 2. Okay, so x will be negative 2, right? So negative 2 plus 4 is, negative 2 plus 6 is 4. Okay, let's do one more. I'm going to pick a different y. I'm going to go ahead and pick a negative for y. You don't have to, but I think it might be easy here. Okay, so x plus 3 times negative 1. Well, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So what does x have to be to make this 4? Okay, so x would have to be, y'all are probably trying to figure it out in your head, right? Try to figure that out. It would have to be 7. Okay, it says 7 plus negative 3 is 4. So, oops, I messed up again. Y was negative 1, and x ended up being 7. So remember, right here, y was negative 1, and x ended up being 7. Okay, so now I can graph that. So I'm going to look at my numbers again. Remember how I did last time to see what my graph needs to look like. So x needs to go from negative 2 all the way to 7. I don't know if I have enough room on here. I'll try it from right here. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I did have enough room. So then my y is -1 to 2, so it's really short. I'm just going to draw it a little bit taller. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You do not have to make your graphs, so see how mine are off a lot? You don't need to do that. You could just make them a normal square if that's easier on you. Just make sure that you have enough numbers. So mine are a little wonky or, you know, heavier on the X because I'm really paying attention to my T-chart. But you could just make a regular graph with like 10 up, 10 down, 10 to the sides. That's fine. Okay, so my first point is 1, 1. So let's graph that, 1, 1. My second point is -2, 2. That's -2, 2. Oops, let me erase this right here. Okay, -2, 2. And the last one is 7, -1. Okay, look at it, make sure, hey, that looks like it's a straight line, and this one does. And now I'm going to try to draw a straight line there. This is really hard to do without a ruler. I'll need to see if I can get a ruler and put it on the iPad, but I think that it will kind of mess it up. Okay, and there we go. And once again, it didn't really go through this point because my line isn't straight. That shows you that you really need to get straight lines. Okay. Now, before we finish on this one, I want to show you something else that they're going to ask you for today, and that is X and Y intercepts. So let's talk about that. A y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And then the x-intercept is the same thing, but where the line crosses the x-axis. Okay, so we're going to do this in just a minute with these, but before we do, I forgot to label this line. So I need to label it with x plus 3y equals 4. Okay. Okay, so the x and y intercepts are where the line crosses those points. Okay, so this one's kind of hard to tell. Let me look at this one. Oh, this one's good. Okay, so this one, this would be the y-intercept. Sometimes it's just abbreviated like that. So the y-intercept is 0, 5 on this line. And then this one, now see, I want to show you, I can't zoom in here. Let's see if y'all can see. So when I was drawing this line, I saw that each of these went through exactly on the point. But then see right here, my line got off the point. Really, the line should be right here. And then it got off the point here. It should have been here. And the point should have been here. So see how much my line starts to go off? That's why you have to be really careful in using a ruler. I was trying to make sure that it was in the intersection of those lines. So really my line should have gone through right here, which would have been -5, 0 as my x-intercept. Okay, and then let's look at this one. This one, my x-intercept is easy to see. It is 4, 0. Okay, and my y-intercept is hard because it's right in the middle right here, right? So it's where it crosses the y-intercept. And so that point, sometimes you have to figure out what the point is. So I'm going to show you how to figure out one like this. How I would do that is, I know that my on the y-intercept, this is the y-axis, then my x is always 0, right? So this is going to be 0 and something. We don't know what because it's a fraction. But I know my x is going to be 0 for the y-intercept. So I'm going to take this point and I'm going to make x 0. Now you don't always have to do this because sometimes you can see the points where they cross. Okay, so now I'm going to solve this. That 0 just goes away and I have 3y equals 4. Divide by 3. and y equals 4/3. So this point right here, the y-intercept is 0 4/3. So see how I put 0 in for x, and my y ended up being 4/3. Okay, let's do another example where we do that without graphing it. So example 3 is figuring out x and y intercepts. So here's the equation, 2x plus y equals 6. And they want you to figure out the x and y intercept. So I'm going to put a 0 in place of either one first. Let's go ahead and do the y. So if I have, so I'm trying to figure out this point, right, where y is 0. So if y is 0, then I have 2x equals 6, divide by 2, x is 3. Okay, so which intercept is this? If the number, wherever the number is, that's what intercept it is. So this is the x-intercept. Okay, let's do the other one now where the x is 0. So I take the same equation and I'm going to make x 0. Okay, so this time I'm doing it this way where I'm trying to find where the x is 0. And when I do this equation, 2 times 0 is 0. Okay, anything plus 0 is just itself. So I get y equals 6. So if this is in the y labeling, right, this is x and this is y, then that means this is the y-intercept. So some of your homework is going to just give you an equation and you have to find the x and y-intercept. This is how you do it. You make them zeros. Okay, if you didn't understand this thing, actually, let's go ahead. I'll give you an example to do on your own. That way you can do one on your own and try it. So everybody, hold on just a second. I'm going to find you an equation to do. Okay, let's do this one. Let's do x minus 2y equals -12. Okay, so pause the video and find your x and y intercept on your own, and then come back and I'll solve it with you. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. It does not matter which one you start with. I'm just going to start with x being 0, okay, just because I'm looking at this and thinking that might be pretty easy. So x is going to be 0. So that 0 with 0 plus something is still the same thing. So that's just going to go away. And I'm going to have -2y equals -12. Now the 0 doesn't just go away if it's multiplied times something, right? I would actually multiply it and that whole thing would go away. But because it's just by itself, it just goes away. And make sure that that minus sign becomes a negative. Okay, so now I'm going to divide by -2. And that's y equals 6. So my first one, this is my y-intercept, is 0, 6. And then let's do the next one. I'm just rewriting it so you can see. This time I'm going to make my y 0. So now see this, you can't just do what I did in the front one and cross out the 0 and say, oh, it's not there, because it's connected now to that 2. So I need to do 2 times 0 is 0. And now I can say, oh, that's not there. So it's just x equals -12, because x minus 0 is x. And so my numbers here are -12, 0. So there are my two intercepts. X-intercept is -12, 0, and y-intercept is 0, 6. So when you did this, it doesn't matter which one you do first. You can do either one first. Make sure that you got those answers. If you didn't, go back and see what you got wrong. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you.